Well, you gotta love Japan. I've always found Sonic Jam to be an interesting piece of Blue Hedgehog history, especially looking at it now, 17 to 18 years after it first hit the shelves for the Sega Saturn way back in 1997. To me, this little compilation showcases Sonic's past, a little bit of what could have been, and a small glimpse into his future. But first, a quick history lesson. Sonic the Hedgehog became a video game star in the early 1990s as Sega's answer to the Super Mario Bros. Over in Nintendo Land. The original 4 games in the series on the Mega Drive became instant classics. Add to those a few half-decent spin-offs, and by 1994 Sonic's place in video game folklore was firmly established. So what happened next? Well, we all know that Sega's successor to the Mega Drive, the Saturn, didn't exactly set the world on fire the way that the company hoped. There were a number of reasons for this, of course, but one of the major factors for me was that the Saturn never had that flagship Sonic game. A large chunk of the Mega Drive's success came from the critically well-received Sonic series, so a Saturn game to transition Sonic into the new era of 3D platforming was surely a no-brainer. Of course, a new 3D Sonic title was in the works for Sega's new console, but alas it was not to be. Sonic X-treme's development was an uncoordinated mess, mainly due to bad communication between a development team split into different groups working on different projects using different gaming engines. Company politics were also a factor, and the sheer stress was enough to make at least 2 of the game's staff very seriously ill, including directors Chris Sen and Chris Coffin, the latter coming down with pneumonia. It truly was development hell, and the game was eventually cancelled. A port of the Mega Drive's Sonic 3D was quickly put together to replace it so that Saturn owners would have a Sonic game to play on their system over the 1996 holiday season. Hooray? So, did the Sega Saturn ever get its lucrative 3D Sonic game? Sort of. Sonic & Co. would return to the Saturn in 1997 in Sonic R, a racing game where most of the characters were on foot as opposed to using vehicles. The controls were pretty clunky and there were only 5 courses to choose from. While there has been worse games in the Sonic series, Sonic R was hardly the Blue Blur's greatest moment. I can't really say I was feeling the sunshine here. Got to love that cheesy music though! So that just leaves us with the Saturn's only other Sonic related game, a compilation known as Sonic Jam. Sonic Jam had 2 key selling points. The first was that it was indeed a compilation. Saturn owners would now be able to play the first 4 Mega Drive Sonic games on their system. The original Sonic the Hedgehog, its sequel Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and of course Mr. Lockhart himself, Sonic and Knuckles. While this may not have been so exciting for fans who had already played those games on their Mega Drives, there were some tweaks and additions to consider. Each game had a few extra modes added to spice things up a bit. The original Sonic the Hedgehog, or Sonic 1, now had the option of being able to use the spin dash move, which didn't become a feature until Sonic 2. That was cool. As well as the normal gameplay, you could also test your speed in the time attack mode. If you liked the special stages the games had to offer, then you could even play through them all one after the other. 3 difficulty options were now present. Normal mode made some slight changes to the original games to make them slightly easier. For example, in Sonic 3's special stages, they never sped up. Easy mode removed some levels entirely, and were tweaked to add to the easiness with extra power-ups, platforms and springs here and there. Original mode allowed you to play each game untouched in their glorious Mega Drive form. The games were not emulated, but rewritten for the Sega Saturn. While they all behaved pretty much the same as their Mega Drive counterparts, there are a few changes here and there. For example, Sonic now leaves skid marks when he stops sharply in Sonic 1, like he does in the later games. As the audio is now handled by the Sonic Jam CD, some of the sound has some changes too. For some weird reason, Sonic 2 uses Sonic 1's invincibility theme. This is probably an oversight, as the proper Sonic 2 version of this theme can be heard in the 2-player versus mode, which also has less lag thankfully. Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles in particular have several bug fixes and enhanced sound effects, such as collecting blue spheres in the special stages and various explosions. Finally, Sonic & Knuckles' lock-on capabilities are all present and correct, making Blue Sphere, Knuckles in Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles all fully playable. A decent little bundle then. However, this is only half of what's on offer here. The second selling point came in the form of Sonic Jam's Sonic World mode, which would finally allow Sonic fans the chance to control their favourite spiky mammal in a 3D environment. Properly this time, none of those isometric lies that came the previous year. Here in this small 3D Green Hill Zone inspired hub, you could take Sonic through a few time challenges. This could involve collecting rings, finding Sonic's best buddy Tails, activating checkpoints and a few others. While only small in size and not a full game by any means, being able to play as Sonic in 3 dimensions was very nice. It was a bittersweet moment though, as this 3D Sonic world showed us all a glimpse of what could have been for Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Saturn. If this had come earlier in the system's life with expanded gameplay mechanics such as the spin dash, more levels and some boss fights with Dr. Robotnik, then I firmly believe this would have made the Saturn an essential purchase. Not a tragic shame, but a real shame nonetheless. All was not lost though. Sonic World was a test by Sonic Team to see how Sonic would work in a 3D environment. This small hub, unbeknownst to us at the time, was actually a test area which led to the development of Sonic Adventure, a launch title for the Saturn's successor, the Dreamcast. Let's head back to the past though, because there is still more to see. Sonic World contained 5 buildings. Each building contained different kinds of media which offered information and other goodies related to Sonic's past. The character house contained various official artwork of Sonic, his allies and of course his enemies. These included Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Animal Friends, Robotnik and his Badnik robots. The Music Museum allowed you to listen to any of the music from the first 4 Sonic games featured on the disc's compilation. Then there's the art gallery, featuring much more detailed Sonic artwork. Some of these are pretty strange, like Sonic waiting for a bus for example. Would that really happen, Sega? Really? And would Sonic be so happy about this? I seriously doubt it. I love Robotnik's pose in this one. It makes me LOL. All of these pictures were available on the Japan-only release Sonic the Screensaver for PC. Moving on to the Hall of Fame building. Here you could take a look at Sonic's history up until 1997 in snippet form, including release dates for all the different versions of all the Sonic games released up until this point in time. Other information could also be found, such as Sonic being used for Sega sponsorship on Williams Formula 1 race cars and on the shirts of Japanese football team Jeff United. Did you know that Sonic was also the first video game character to have his own balloon at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? Well, now you do. Although what Sonic Jam doesn't tell you is that the Sonic Bloom had a bit of a tragic end. Finally, my favourite building has to be the movie theatre. Here you could watch various animations and concepts, such as the strange CG Sonic ride which I don't believe ever saw the light of day beyond this. Robotnik at the end will give you a chuckle, Wile E. Coyote style. Then there's this one where Robotnik becomes angry at Sonic for being dubbed Man of the Year. I thought he was a hedgehog. But anyway. After throwing a temper tantrum, Robotnik hatches an oh-so-evil scheme dressing up as Sonic and causing havoc across the city, turning its residents against our blue spiny hero. Oh dear. The cleaned up opening and ending animations from Sonic CD are here, as well as the Japanese commercial for the Sonic the Hedgehog anime movie. Will Knuckles' hat set on fire? Watch the movie to find out. Another subsection takes you to the Japanese commercials for various Sonic games, both 16 and 8-bit. Sonic appears in plasticine form to advertise his first Mega Drive game as he breakdances on a chauffeur-driven car while the people cheer him on. The voice at the end which says, "Sonic the Hedgehog" at the end of this reminds me of Charles Martinet's Mario voice for some strange and ironic reason.
カットリアクションゲームソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグメガドライブから
Sonic 3's commercial is also great fun, as a Japanese man is sent whizzing through real-life interpretations of the game's levels when the game's box takes control of his body. Hilarious. Want to see the rest of these commercials? Better go find a copy of Sonic Jam then. Or just search for them on YouTube.
Non-stop power play. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 from Mega Drive.
Sonic Jam is still my favourite compilation in the series. Okay, so it doesn't have the games that a Mega or Gems collection has, but back in 1997 this had Sonic's past, present and future on one CD-ROM with some great bonus content. It's a shame that the best thing Sonic the Hedgehog ever did on the failing Saturn was offer a rehash of the same games we've played before, but with the extra game modes and Sonic's very first 3D experience, Sonic Jam may not have been an essential purchase, but it was certainly an interesting one. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This has been RetroDanno. Bye bye!